neck. And within this bottle are a number of strange devices, one of the more common and frequent of which is a peacock with an extended tail in many iridescent colors. And the initiate seeking the stone is told to watch for the appearance of a peacock's tail in the bottle. In the emblems of Solomon Trisposon, called the Splendor Solus, we have a good many examples of this wonderful adventure taking place in a glass bottle. This was called the hermetic womb in the rites and in the ancient mysteries. And this undoubtedly has one very simple meaning. This glass bottle is the human soul. And it is within this soul that the mystery of the 7 transmutations takes place. Now you remember in the last series when we were talking about yoga, I pointed out the importance of recognizing that the human soul corresponds with the orbits of the 7 planets, and that the soul of man represents the seal of the 7 cardinal virtues, the 7 deadly sins, which reflect downward into the physical phenomena of the 7 liberal arts and sciences. Therefore, the second part of the work of the illuminist, takes place within the soul, and the bottle, it must contain the universal medicine. Now, this universal medicine is achieved through the mystery of the 7 parts of the human soul, a doctrine which originated probably in Egypt, where there is specific reference to the 7 souls of man and how they in turn influence the destiny of his life. Now, when we get up into the higher level of the adeptus, we also begin to see this cut diamond with its various facets and symbols. And the further we go into that diamond and the study of it, the closer we get to the great geometric solids of Plato's Pythagoras. The diamond is a symbol of a symmetrical geometric solid, the sign of the perfect form in nature. The diamond soul is itself, of course, a symbol of the universe. It is a symbol of consciousness. It is a symbol of spirit. It is a symbol of the perfect power which is released or made possible or available to man through regeneration. Now, all these different elements become more than mere hints. We must accept them as hints. We must work with them as best we can until we gain more and more knowledge of them. Now, also in alchemy, you have another mysterious symbolism which is called the ladder of the sages, or Homer's golden chain, which binds the ship of life to the pinnacle of Olympus. Homer's golden chain is a sequence of 7 interlocking elemental symbols, by means of which spirit and body are united. The soul is therefore the symbol of union, and that comes out of this another very important emblem, and that is the rise of the term hermetic. Hermetic is associated with the later Egyptian divinity Hermes, who belongs to the period of the Gnostic revivals in North Africa. Is a very mysterious being around whom the great vision of the Pymanderies of Hermes has been compiled. We use the word hermetic today to symbolize something that is sealed so that air cannot get in, the hermetically sealed jars or bottles. This is again a reference to alchemy. Hermes was the patron of alchemy, which was also referred to as the hermetic art. Now, Hermes carries always the caduceus, or the winged staff. He's represented with wings on his heels and wings on his hat, and usually dressed somewhat in the garb of a Roman soldier. He's a kind of an effective-looking little fellow in his own way, but very few students have really given him a great deal of thought. Now, Mercury, in the old astrological symbolism, has to do with the intellect. And to a certain degree, it still has that relation in alchemy, because mind unites spirit and body. Mind is the link between man as an internal and man as an external being. So the mind, man expresses into himself from environment, and through the mind, man expresses the inner nature of his own consciousness. Thus, mind is a common ground within himself. But the alchemists use mind much more in the sense that we use the psyche of the soul. For to them it included both male and female attributes. and represented a psychic field or pattern. And Mercury was therefore the common solvent or quicksilver by which all metals could be united or brought into synthesis. Mercury was the absorbing power, so that actually, according to their doctrine, the Philosopher's Stone was composed of the union of salt, mercury, and sulfur. Sulfur representing consciousness or spirit, salt representing earth or body, and mercury representing mind or the solvent. In this symbolism, using the Hermetic analogy, we come upon a number of very interesting and important parallels or elements, each of which we will gradually develop along with other symbolism. Mercury now emerges as something that unites or forms a common ground, absorbing into itself things otherwise irreconcilable. Let us try to understand that in terms of human experience, in something that is familiar to us. What is there about us as beings, or what faculty of power do we possess by which we can reconcile opposites, by which we can bind together through experience things held differently or regarded as irreconcilable in nature or quality? What is this most mysterious and absorbing agent? The Greeks and later the Hermetists and the alchemists declared that the psychic field of man was capable of accepting from above spiritual powers and reducing them to the level of mind and emotion, and that this also, the soul, was able to cause bodily elements and external phenomena to ascend into this middle zone and be absorbed into soul quality. So that the soul was the common denominator, the link, the common field into which both spirit and matter passed, and in which they seemed to die, to be reborn again as one body or being. So we can say that in the Hermetic allegory, consciousness, which is the spiritual power, descending into the field of Mercury or into the soul, manifests itself as intellect and intuition, whereas bodily elements or energies ascending into the soul also took on an attribute or aspect of intellect and intuition, so that they took on an overtone and were reconciled in this field, and that therefore man, through a kind of experience within himself, achieved an alchemy in which he transmuted the opposites of his own nature and caused them to become one being within the sphere of soul power. So we have the formula very simple. We have the king and queen, which are spirit and body, or God and nature, producing the homunculus, or the crystal creature, which is man. Man, therefore, is Hermes. Man is the unifier. Man is the personification of the principle of the Hermetic medicine. In man, heaven and earth are mingled. In man, the divine and the human are brought together in one structure. In man, all opposites of nature meet. And in man, in his own nature and in his own existence, in his own attitude, the creation of the diamond soul is made possible. Thus Hermes or Mercury is man. Man composed of certain powers and faculties, particularly the 7 powers of the soul. These 7 powers of the soul being the basis of the harmony or synthesis by which the divine and the human, or the divine and the mortal, are brought together. Thus man becomes the potential alchemist. So we have in the old symbolism heaven, earth, and the alchemist. Now we find many such symbols. Heaven represented as a divine being. Earth represented as a wonderful fecundity of life. The king and queen again. Holding between them man, who is the potential adept, who is the potential redeemer of all things and the transmuter of the universe in which he is placed. Now this heaven earth man begins to bring another point into consideration. which we have in alchemy. So we have a trinity of terms which are only found in certain of the old alchemical ABC books, as they are called, the ABCdarian writings of early alchemy. And here we have God, nature, and art. Now, alchemy was called art. And it was called art in a definition which says, an art perfects nature. Alchemy says there are no miracles to be performed by art. Art merely anticipates nature and achieves its greatest work by becoming a handmaid of nature. Bacon, the English philosopher, refers to art as the power to perfect nature through intelligent cooperation. So art becomes the symbol of alchemy. In nature, all things are growing. All things are unfolding their life. And all things are moving inevitably and victoriously towards perfection, or towards the state of pure and complete being. But the path is slow, the means are continuous, and the achievements are imperceptible at any given time. Now, in a field of man's researches, such as horticulture, for example, comes along a person like Mr. Bernays, or a man like Dr. Carroll. He begins to fulfill the alchemical adage that art perfects nature. Bernays became a great student of plant life. And he finally learned how to use the laws governing plant life to hasten the growth of plants. He didn't break any laws. He didn't perform any miracles. He simply used knowledge and helped the plant to help itself. This is art, which is man's voluntary cooperation with the plan of life. The plan will be perfected without him, but it will take millions of years. Man will perfect himself over a great period of experience by trial and error. Man will go on suffering, dying, until he learns how to live. This is the long road. He will continue to make mistakes, will learn ultimately the laws governing his own conduct, and in the fullness of time will learn to keep those laws. But man may also do many things. He may learn how to work with laws. He may learn that through his own voluntary cooperation, he can make things grow more rapidly. Through will, wisdom, and discipline, he can make himself grow more rapidly. Not by performing a miracle, but by cooperating with nature. So we find alchemy defined as the servant of nature. Not a magician waving a wand, but a gardener working with a spade in the garden. And in the opening sections of Michael Myers, one of his books, we have alchemy as the gardener, working with a spade, very carefully cultivating around the rose bush. There's no description given, but there's none necessary. This is art the gardener, making possible the more immediate and perfect growth of the flower. The rose, of course, is always Eros, love, and our prospect for the human soul. So soul gardening is an art. And the alchemist is the gardener in this great and mysterious garden of the metals. So we find around the gardener growing on various trees symbols of all the metals. He is a gardener working in the field of the metals. He is making them to grow. The artist also is the gardener working in the garden of his own soul, making it to grow, releasing the seven powers and faculties which are exoterically represented by the seven senses of man, unfolding all the potentials there, keeping faith with the law, making the law to reveal itself through working with it, through following its own rules and causing the law to fulfill itself more immediately through obedience. Another symbolism appropriate to the idea is the gardener weeding his garden. He has valuable plants there which he wishes to protect. Therefore, he takes away the weeds. He fertilizes the ground. He cultivates it and makes it possible for his precious plants to grow better. Now, also we find the garden sometimes symbolized as a little fenced-in enclosure. in which, as like as not, you will find two animals, a lion and a